Hello everyone, this is Caleb Simpson from ZeldaDungeon.net, and you are watching my video walkthrough for The Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass for Nintendo DS. In the last video, we went to the Temple of the Ocean King for the third time and got the location of the Sun Key, so we're going to work our way towards that. But now that we've completed that, we also have unlocked the Treasure Teller at long last, where we can sell treasure and ship parts. Now to know which ship parts you want to sell, you might want to stop by the shipyard and assess what you got. Your boat starts out with 4 hearts, and for every 3 pieces of a set that you apply to your boat, it will increase your boat health by 1. Otherwise, if you can if you have all of the ship parts for one particular set and they all match, then it will increase your boat by 3 hearts instead total, which is awesome. And I actually have the entire ancient set, but I don't have them all applied that way. I have like 4 of one and 4 of another set, and the reason I did that is because that's probably more normal for like what a lot of you will experience for most of the game, so I figured that made more sense to make my ship look like that for now. There's a dude outside the Treasure Teller shop who's just explaining that it's open for business and explains that you can sell stuff there. But head on inside and the Treasure Teller will buy both treasure and ship parts from you. Now, I only have a bunch of common stuff available right now, so it's all worth like 50 rupees. I think I have a couple pieces of treasure that are worth 150, something like that. But it's all really common, low-tiered stuff. I actually hung out on Bannon Island playing Salvatore's Cannon game for a while, and I got a whole bunch of ship parts. However, they all are common, so they're all worth only 50. Which is not very much. So I sold all the duplicates of the ancient set that I had, and I'm selling all of the bright ship and the wooden ship pieces that I have. So that it only ended up equaling out to 4 parts, which was 200 rupees, which isn't really all that much, but it was just a little bit of boost. So I kind of recommend you do this. Get rid of any ship parts you don't want right now so that you have a little bit of extra money to buy the Salvage Arm with here pretty soon. Now you can also sell your treasure to this guy, and I kind of recommend you don't do that. And the reason is because eventually we will gain access to the ho-hos, which you haven't met them yet, but that comes later in the game. The ho-hos will buy stuff from you for, it's either 1.5 or 2 times the amount that this guy will buy stuff from you for. So if you hang on to your treasures, you can actually sell them for significantly more. This is particularly true for the really high-tiered treasure, so you have some that'll sell for like 1,500. If you sell them to the ho-hos instead, you can make 2,200 or even as high as 3,000 on some of them. So it's kind of crazy. You can make a lot of money. Now, on the flip side of that argument, though, a lot of the treasures that we have are probably all common treasures, so they're only worth 50 anyways. So you could sell all the low-tiered stuff that you don't care about. Like, if you make a little bit more money on it, so what? Like, it's not really worth hanging on to them for that long. But if you can make a couple hundred more rupees right now, then that would give you a little boost until you get to that point. So whatever you want to do, I'm actually hanging on to all my treasures for now. I have more than enough money, so I'm not too worried about it. So the next time you head over to a post box, then the postman will deliver a letter from Eddo, who's on Cannon Island. And he has developed a salvage arm, which he talked about before, and it allows you to grab treasure from the bottom of the sea. Now this is handy because we both have a bunch of treasure maps, but that's also how we're going to get the Sun Key. So our next destination is heading all the way over to Cannon Island. So as you work your way towards Linebeck's ship, there's a dude on the dock who will call out to you, and he talks about the treasure teller and stuff and is all excited, but he also asks if you have a salvage arm. You want to say yes, whether or not you actually have it yet, and he'll just get all excited talking about how you can use it to get treasure off the seafloor. But he then offers to sell you a treasure map, and you want to go ahead and say yes. It's worth 50 rupees, which is really cheap, and what it leads to is some Sand of Hours. So it increases the time that you have in your Phantom Hourglass, which is actually a pretty big upgrade, honestly, and it's like really cool for especially newer players or whatever. If you struggle with the Temple of the Ocean King at all, this is awesome. It's like a pretty beefy upgrade. Alright, our next objective is to get the Salvage Arm, and we just got that letter from Eddo saying that he's just come up with it and designed it, so we're going to head to Cannon Island and speak with Eddo inside his shop. So enter Eddo's shop, then go into the second room and speak directly to Eddo, and he's gotten a little bit feistier. He wants a little more money out of you now that he knows you're loaded, plus the whole concept of supply and demand. He's going to sell it to the first person who gets here, but we're the only one who's going to buy it, obviously. Now his price, actually, he wants quite a bit of money out of you, but he is willing to drop the price, depending on how fiercely you want it. So he's willing to drop the price if you can yell into your microphone very loudly and impress him. So you can reduce your price by yelling as loud as you can into your microphone. However, you don't actually have to yell. You can just blow, so you just blow on it instead. Now, the price can be somewhere between 200 rupees and 1,000 rupees. So I actually saved right before I entered this, and for some reason for me, it would not drop down to 200. I tried blowing, I tried yelling, I tried moving to different rooms, and it would not do this. So I finally just gave up, and I just saved a recording of it being 300 rupees. So whatever, it's fine. I have a lot of rupees anyway. But it's still just a bummer. Alright, so with the Salvage Arm in hand, we can finally get the Sun Key. So head over to the Courage symbol that is on our map that we got from the Temple of the Ocean King, and then use the Salvage Arm by pressing the menu button, and then pressing the Salvage Arm. So we have this bar at the bottom of the screen, and what you want to do is tap the little red button and hold it with your stylus, and then that will let you move the Salvage Arm around. So you can move it left to right to make it, and it kind of sways a little bit. It takes it a second for it to actually do its thing. So you do want to kind of preemptively move it a little bit, and it kind of has like, it's almost like you're on ice sort of. It's like sways around a little bit. So just bear that in mind. The octo mines are pretty easy to avoid, but the moving ones are kind of tricky. The ones that move left to right aren't too bad. You might need to slow down for them though. Just watch out. They can blow you back and forth because their little gusts of water will actually like make you swing back and forth, and that can make you bonk into things. You're stunned for a second when that happens. Steadily work your way to the bottom and grab the chest. Now, in general, what you want to do is just avoid all the octo mines and also avoid touching the walls. If you do, it will make you take damage and you'll have to start over again, and you'll lose any treasure that you've collected. Now, one other comment to make is I would just avoid rupees entirely. Like, if the rupee is really easy to get, then sure, go for it. There's no reason not to, but all the harder ones, just don't do it. It's not worth it at all. Because if you take damage with your Salvage Arm, you're going to spend more money than you would have collected by getting the rupees. I mean, unless you enjoy getting rupees, I guess, like, whatever. But if just rupees are your priority, there's much better places to get them. So once you've successfully brought that aboard, you now have the Sun Key, which allows us to get to the Temple of Courage, which is awesome. That's on Molida Island. So we're going to head over there later on in this video. In the meantime, though, we have a whole bunch of stuff to salvage. Now that we have the Salvage Arm, we can get all of this sunken treasure. So I'm going to go ahead and spend the next little while doing that. Now, I'm not actually going to show all that gameplay. I'm just going to fast forward through all that stuff. So you'll see kind of what I'm going to show the rewards and stuff, but I'm not going to show all the gameplay. It's like literally the same thing. The only other things that are different is that sometimes there's some octo mines that like go up and down. Those are a little bit tricky to do. You can see my gameplay for that, but there's not really a reason to show it in regular speed, I guess. And other than that, the only other thing that's different is sometimes there is water currents that like push your stylus back and forth, or push the Salvage Arm back and forth. So you need to kind of compensate for that. So when it's pushing from the right, you need to kind of push really far to the right so that your stylus stays in the right position or whatever. So that's the only other difference. I'm just going to fast forward through all this stuff. Now, we got several things. I have been mentioning throughout the walkthrough when we've been getting treasure maps, like what they lead to. Most of them lead to ship parts. And the interesting thing about these, though, is that a lot of these ship parts can be rare ship parts. Now, if you really don't want to do all this, you can just, at the very least, get the Sand of Hours one, which there's the one I'm getting right now, which is just northeast of Murkay Island, and then there's also the one that is southwest of Cannon Island, and those ones both lead to Sand of Hours, which is 1 minute, which is a pretty big upgrade, honestly, but if you can get those, like, they give you 2 more minutes for your Sand of Hours, so the Temple of the Ocean King is significantly easier. So that's, I think it's like a really good upgrade. Now, otherwise, though, too, just so you know, these ship parts are worth a lot more. Like, the ones I sold earlier in this video are worth about 50, but some of the ones, even that I got from the Sunken Treasures, I know there's like a couple of them that are worth 800, and there's one, I think, that was worth 1,500. So just so you know, this is a pretty good chunk of money. Like, I just made, like, 4,000 rupees right now by doing all the Sunken Treasure. Which maybe it doesn't seem like that, but it's a significant amount of money. So whether or not, even if you're not going to use those ship parts, so to speak, on your own, you don't care about the collection, you could at least do it for the money. So I do think it's worthwhile to do at least some of these. One other thing worth noting is I have a 2DS XL that I use for recording, and it has this dead spot, like right on the edges of the bottom screen. In particular on the bottom side is what I've noticed. And so when I'm using the Salvage Arm, I have to be really careful, because if I push the stylus too far to the bottom, then what happens is it actually like stops responding, and I have to actually pick up the stylus and pick it back up and put it back like a little bit higher up, like more towards the middle. Otherwise it just stops working entirely. So it is just this little tricky thing where I have to constantly be careful when I'm salvaging in particular, because all of a sudden it'll just stop working. And that it's really aggravating. I don't know if anybody else experiences that either, or maybe it's just the XL in general does that. I haven't only played on a 3DS XL a couple times, but I was usually playing like Ocarina of Time 3D and stuff like that. So I'm not super familiar with how the other XL variants do as far as the touchpad goes. It isn't an issue for me most of the time, but I just thought I'd mention it in case some of you out there are experiencing that too, so then just, I know your pain. And that's my only advice really, is just to kind of keep an eye out for it, and to just try not to use the stylus right on the edges of the screen, and maybe that'll solve your problem. So once you have gotten the last of the treasure, then we want to head to Molida Island. There's actually one last treasure that I was saving for last right next to Molida Island, so I'm getting that real quick. But then, once that's done, you want to set sail for Molida Island, and there is an enemy that will appear as soon as you start getting close to the dock. Thus commences the battle with the giant eye plant. Such a creative title. It sounds so fiendish too. Now this enemy is very easy. All you have to do is you can either move a little bit closer, just because you're just barely out of range when you first start the battle, and then you can just sit there and hit the projectiles, and then otherwise hit the eye. So whenever the eye is open, you smack that, and whenever the projectiles are coming towards you, you smack those. Or you can draw yourself a little half circle path. Now I think most people draw a little path like this, but in some ways I think this is almost harder. And one thing that happens with this, I typically make a path and it's too far away, so I was purposely trying to make it really, really close this time, but it was apparently too close. But the idea is that you just draw these little half circles, and the problem with them, though, is they do make you dodge the attacks automatically, but it doesn't work when you're here at these far edges, because then you're slowly turning. It's just bad. Like, at some point, you're just not close enough. You can make these super wide arcs where you totally get away from the box really far, and then that way you might be able to keep your speed up, or something like that. So you make almost like this kind of like half donut shape, I guess. Like, so it curves back up and goes really far north and then sweeps wide or something. I don't know. You could do something like that, so you come back in these little sweeping gestures there in the middle or something. So maybe you could do those big lines up and down vertically, and maybe that would work too. But either way, this boss is really easy. You just keep smacking in the eye for a while. That's all there is to it. Oh, that description was horrible. That's basically like, if you could summarize in just as few words as possible how to defeat any boss in Zelda ever, that would be what it is. Just keep smacking in the eye for a while. Especially in Phantom Hourglass, like every enemy has an eye in it. Like seriously, I think if you look at the enemy roster, it's like 80% of the enemies are just like have one single prominent eye. Even though a lot of them are just like, you just tap on them with your sword, they're just regular enemies. A lot of them have giant eyeballs. So once you finally defeated it, we finally have access to Molida Island again. You want to go back there, head all the way to the hidden hideout again, use your shovel on that part that was marked on your map, and then fall down the hole. This will lead to the sun door. You want to use the sun key on it. This allows us to access some stairways that lead back up into the grassy area in a new portion that we haven't been to yet. And if you look to the far north on your map, you can see that's clearly where the Temple of Courage is. Now, as soon as you exit these stairs here, you'll notice that there is a soft soil patch just to the left. You want to use your shovel on it. This actually creates a hole that makes you fall back down, and this leads to a chest containing a wisdom gem. Woo! With that, you want to hop down and go back up the steps to go back outside. Continuing onward, there's a bunch of mini blends up ahead, but they're not a problem to deal with at all. And just past that, there is a gossip stone, and if you smack it, it gives you a little tip about some treasure. It says that next to Oshus's house, he has his storehouse, which is that cave where we got the practice sword, by the way. So next to that cave, there is a tree, and if you dig right below the tree, you'll get a treasure map. So we actually could have technically gotten this earlier if you knew about this tip. And actually, in fact, I did go to Oshus's house in the last video even, and I had the shovel, but I didn't do that because we just had so much stuff we were getting already, and I don't know, like we haven't actually seen the tip yet, so storyline-wise, it kind of makes more sense to do it after this. But whatever, you know, if you could have technically gotten it earlier. I figured we were just getting so much stuff, and we had so much salvage to get anyways, I just figured I'd put it off till later. Once you reach the Temple of Courage, you'll see that the door is closed, and the tablet next to the door says that the only way to get the door to open is to make these statues face towards the door. So head to the right, and what do you know, there's a statue here, so smack it with your sword. This makes it shoot a beam out of its forehead, which is, I'm sure, exactly what you were expecting. Go ahead and tap on it, and this allows you to rotate it, so make it so it's facing towards the temple doors, and then continue on to the south. Now here we face off with 2 Zora warriors at once. Make sure you grab the red rupees after they're defeated, but yeah, usually you just use the boomerang is the best way to take care of them. We don't really have a lot of other options, really. You could technically use bombs, but that's pretty awkward. Boomerang is still the most reliable option. Go ahead and defeat them, and once you do so, this will make another statue appear. So go ahead and smack that, and also make that face towards the door as well. So it seems kind of suspicious, like there's probably another statue over here to the left, so hop down, head over to the left, and you'll see one in the distance that you can smack with your boomerang to activate it, and thus open the door, which gives us access to the Temple of Courage. Alright, that's going to wrap up things here. Join me for the next video where we will tackle the Temple of Courage. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to throw a like on it, and then subscribe both to Zelda Dungeon as well as myself for more videos of the same nature in the future. And there'll be links to all that stuff in the description for our various socials. As always, guys, thank you so much for joining me. You have an amazing day, and remember, stay awesome.